Hello, welcome to the 2018 Meet the Candidates, a voter education program sponsored by the Shakopee Chamber and Visitors Bureau. Today I'm joined with mayoral candidate Mike Luce. Mike, thanks for being here today.
Thanks, Elliot, for allowing me to be here.
Why don't you start by introducing yourself and telling our audience why you chose to run for mayor?
Well, as you know, my name is Mike Luce. I'm a lifelong relative of Shakopee. I've served 4.5 years plus on the council so far, and I just think it's time that I step it up and move up to mayor. I think I've got a lot to offer. I think I've offered a lot in the past, and I'm more middle of the road than a couple of the candidates. We've got a far right candidate, we've got a far left. I think I've proven that I can work with both sides. I take the time to dig through the information and make sure that everything is what it's presented as and a good thing for Shakopee. I want everything to be good for Shakopee. It doesn't have to be good for me personally. I believe some candidates come in with an agenda, and I don't come in with an agenda other than it's going to be good for Shakopee or it's not going to be done.
Great. The first question today. Investors are pulling out of projects in our community, citing an instability and unpredictability with city politics. How do we restore predictability and stability so that investors feel confident putting their money in projects right here?
Well, to my knowledge, only one investor has pulled out, and that was the investor that originally looked at the old City Hall site and the riverfront site together. And as the paper stated, the investor, after running their numbers a few times, decided that the numbers weren't going to work for them, even with a TIF, very generous TIF. And you know, they just on their own decision. It wasn't. I don't believe that council instability had anything to do with it. And some of what they're calling instability for the council is the fact that I don't make snap judgments. I need information. I will take 3 piles of information over one to be sufficient. I would rather have an overabundance and have to dig through that amount of information to get what I want than to have not enough. Because when you don't get what you need and for information, you miss something, and it usually turns around and causes problems or causes the city, financial hardship. So I don't like to make snap judgments.
The next question then would be, define tax increment financing for our audience and voters.
Simple version of tax increment financing is, say a project comes forward and the numbers don't quite work to get it done. There could be certain elements that the city is requesting that push it over the top. The city can use future tax dollars that are generated by the project. They can capture the county and the school district's portion along with their own to pay the tax increment financing, which benefits the city in the fact that we get things that are necessary for the project and either the city can't afford or the contractor can't afford, and we get it done by the use of everybody's taxes. The state allows the city to, without asking, we generally give them a heads up when we do it, but we can take the tax portion from the county and the school district and use it for the benefit of the city and a project. This does actually benefit all of them in the long run, because when the project is done, it's going to pay higher taxes than what the bare land or the dilapidated buildings we're paying, and everybody wins in the end. It takes a little time to get to there, but in the end, like the Canterbury Commons project, they're predicting 25 years once a TIF is started. But we're going to go from a little over $1 million on that project in taxation for the 3 entities to probably 12 million or more by the time that TIF is finally paid off. So that's going to be a windfall for all 3 entities, the school district, the county, and the city itself. So that's a big amount of money, and I would love to be around, but 26 years from now, that's a long time.
So the follow-up question to that would then be, when does tax increment financing work?
Basically, like I just stated, if a project can't move forward on its own merit, tax increment financing comes into play. We just had a dump site that was found out in Southbridge next to the Home Depot, between them and the movie theater. It's an old dump site. Nobody knew it was there. The property owner bought all of what's now Southbridge in one lump sum, and when you buy that amount of property, you can't investigate every square inch of it. Well, they were working to sell the site, and it was found with some soil borings that there was a site of a former dump. It wasn't garbage, but it was stuff that the ground is unstable and it's unable to be built on. So that has to all be dug out, and then good compacted ground needs to be put in place so that it will hold a structure in place. The way it is now, the structure would slowly sink into the ground, and no bank will loan you money on something like that. That's just one option of it. There's actually 5 different options for tax increment financing that the city can use. One is for redevelopment, similar to the RAR area down there, where we took a blighted area, removed it, and they have a small TIF down there. One is for housing, which would be the apartment building on City Hall site, if that goes. Economic development is just to move the city forward. None of this can be used for government buildings. It has to be used for public buildings. And renewal and renovation is another one, and then the one I just spoke about would be soil conditions. And each one of these has a different time frame. Redevelopment can go for 25 years, which is the maximum of all of them. Housing is 25. Economic development is only 8 years. Renewal and renovation is 15, and soil conditions can run out for 20 years. So it's just that's a quick overview of tax increment financing and how it works. The old City Hall site, the developer has been requested by the city to do streetscaping. They want to take care of repaving 2nd Avenue from Holmes to Luce, Home Street from 2nd to 1st. The alley needs to have some utility work done and concreting, similar to the previous 2 alleys to the east, so that as we go down the line, we're going to have them all looking the same, and they'll be good for 40 years probably. And the benefits are pretty decent for that project, and I'm still working through the numbers with city staff. Come Tuesday night, we have to make a decision one way or the other, because Met Council is not going to allow us to do a comp plan amendment past this month, and this is the last meeting of the month for us, unless we would call a special meeting. But I don't see that being necessary. We'll figure it out tomorrow for sure and get it on the agenda. I've been working with a couple members of staff, and I think we're getting very close to an agreement on how this is going to work out, and it may be very interesting for the public to see how it's going to work. It's a new concept that we haven't tried. Other cities have done it, a few of them, and I believe it shows a lot of promise. So,
Thank you. The next question will be, as the Shakopee Chamber of Commerce, we are unapologetically pro-Shakopee and pro-business. How is your agenda pro-business, and how does that differ from your opponents?
I guess I'm not pro-business or anti-business. I am pro-citizen for Shakopee. I want everything to be the best for the citizens. I have no problem with helping businesses, but my main focus is the citizenry. And with that, helping businesses goes along with it. I understand that, but I'm not going to give away anything to a business that's going to harm the citizens of Shakopee. Your job is pro business. That's what you're there for. That's what they pay you for, and you do a great job of it. I think the City Council has done a very good job of balancing what has been done with business with the needs of the citizens, and that's the balancing act that we have. Yours, you don't have to balance. You just go straight forward with pro-business, and I understand that, but we have to balance it out for the citizenry, because otherwise we could have a city that's got all kinds of businesses, but the people can't afford to live here. So it's like I said, it's a balancing act, and we've done very well so far.
Thank you. The next question, what cities do you think are doing a good job, and what lessons can be learned from them?
As a member of the City Council, I find it to be a very necessary part of the job to stay focused on Shakopee. I do take notice of some things in other cities, but Shakopee is very unique in many ways. Our downtown is unique because it's still intact. Many cities have lost their downtown, and they are trying to rebuild them. We have something that we're trying to hold on to. Financially, we are in a better situation than 90-some% of the cities around, because our predecessors on the council did a lot of very smart things, and we have funds available with great amounts of money to redo buildings, purchase equipment. We set aside money every year so that it's more fair to the public, that everybody all the way along is paying a small amount. They're not paying any huge amount in any one year. We don't have spikes. We have a general gradual incline in our tax rates. This year our tax rate's going to be a negative, which is a great thing to be able to boast about. That doesn't mean everybody's taxes are going to go down, because your valuation of your house goes up, your taxes go up. We don't control any of the valuations. That's on the county. They do all of that, and they also have their own taxing area that they can add a line to your tax statement, and the school district has a line on your tax statement along with a couple others. Met Council has one. We have no control over any of those. But as far as the city being pro-business or not, I think we're right in the middle. I would stay right where we're at if I became mayor. I love to listen to the businesses. I like to see what's interested in coming here. I always hear from citizens that they want an upscale restaurant. I would love to see it happen. I'm hoping in the new building that's going to go down by the river that the restaurant in there is what they hope for and becomes an upscale restaurant. I just don't know if people are going to be willing to pay the prices for an upscale restaurant. You know, we're more of a blue-collar city, I believe, and I don't know if it's fun to go there once or twice a year, but people going there once or twice a year, they aren't going to keep the doors open for that. So they have to justify their existence too. So.
The last question today is, what has been your greatest learning opportunity in life to date?
My greatest learning opportunity was when I worked on the inclusive playground. I put my heart and soul into it. I did a lot of fundraising. I worked on every aspect of that thing. And when it's done and you can stand back and watch children having fun and adults with mobility issues being able to take their children, grandchildren, siblings to the playground and enjoy them, I've sat up there numerous times, and you can tell it in my voice. It really strikes me that is such a great deal. It's a state award-winning playground that very few cities have. I think every city of our size should have at least one, because the parents with special needs children and the seniors with mobility issues that want to go up there and take their grandchildren or their children or whoever to the playground, they all pay taxes. You know, they pay whatever everybody else pays, and they should at least have one playground that they can go to. And the biggest question I ask myself is, why did I wait so long to do something on that level? Because it's so great. It's heartwarming to see it, and the greatest joy I get is if I happen to be in the area and I stop by there, and if I would happen, some people might think this is the wrong way to look at this, but when you see a special needs child that is visibly noticeable, not every special needs child stands out, but when you see one that stands out a little bit and you see them smiling and having a great time at that playground, it touches your soul. It really does, because they probably have never been able to go to a playground. One of the mothers that was part of the group, her daughter can't go to a playground with wood chips, rubber chips, or sand because she doesn't pick her feet up to walk. She shuffles. Her mom would have to hold her hand to do any activity at all. Here, she can just let her go, and if she falls with the rubber cushion surface, there's no problem with it. The very first day we opened, I was watching a young mother bring her little fellow across the parking lot, and you could see she had a pretty tight grip on his hand. And when she got to the rubber surface, I noticed her do a little bounce test on her feet to see how it was, and she let his hand go, and he had a smile from ear to ear immediately. He took off at what I'm guessing was a run to him, which was you could see he had problems with his mobility. But he went out about 10 feet and went and face planted into the rubber, and I thought, oh man, this is going to be ugly. He's going to come up screaming, and this is going to ruin the whole day. And he came up with the biggest grin on his face and just a determined look that he was going to conquer this place. And he did. I was working around the area, moving the security fence and that, and rolling it up, and I had a chance to talk to his mom, and she told me that 3 weeks prior to her being there that day, her son was in a walker. And this was the perfect playground for him because of the undulating surfaces and that. The bigger hills can force him to work harder to get up them, strengthen his legs. And I would say after about 40 minutes of his playing, and I was standing next to his mom, he came over, he laid down on the rubber surface, and he was worn out. He had spent every bit of energy he had. His mom picked him up like a rag doll, put him in the car, and they both left smiling. That was a great day for me.
Well, thank you for your time, Mike Luce, and thank you for watching the 2018 Meet the Candidates.
I'd like to thank the Chamber for inviting us all here, and it's a great thing that you put on. Thank you very much.
Thank you.